good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. We are so excited to welcome you to our next Live from Northwestern. It's Life After Northwestern. My name is Jackie Marthouse. I am your host. I am an assistant director of admissions here at Northwestern, and I'm also an alum. I graduated with a communications degree and an integrated marketing certificate. Then I got a master's in that integrated marketing certificate. So I am your double Wildcat right here. And I am so excited today to be joined with some lovely folks from the Northwestern Alumni Association. So they're gonna go ahead and introduce themselves right now, and I'm gonna pass it off to Suresh.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suresh Mudragada. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. I oversee student-to-alumni engagement, specifically with transitions and traditions programs, and I hope you're safe and well wherever you are.
So my name is Alison Ledwon. I am a program assistant for the Northwestern Alumni Association for our alumni engagement and career advancement team. That sort of means I just sort of do all of our marketing and podcast production and all sorts of fun odds and ends there. I am also an alum. I graduated this past spring in 2019, and I'm super glad to be here with you all today. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. My name is Helen Kim. I go by she, her, hers, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement team focusing on digital career programs. But yeah, I'm also an alum. I graduated in class of 2016 for music performance. So I'm glad to have you all here. I'm going to pass it off to Shreya.
Thanks, Helen. Hi, everyone. My name is Shreya Shriram. I'm a second year at Northwestern. I'm studying economics and communication sciences disorders on the pre-med track. And I'm also a member of a Northwestern Student Alumni Alliance, which is called Arch Society. And I'm super excited to be here with everyone.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for introducing yourselves. Before we get started, I just want to remind y'all to go ahead and drop questions in that chat. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you can go ahead and get more updates when this information goes live. Hit that bell so you get notifications, and just, add us on your YouTube channel because you might get more content from me, from other lovely people in my office. It's just a good way to learn more about admissions overall and what we have to offer at Northwestern. But first off, while we wait for questions to get started, I think what's important here to frame for everyone is what do students even need to know about Northwestern Alumni Association before they're alum? If you guys could go ahead and maybe take that first question.
Thanks, Jackie. I can take the first question. The Northwestern Alumni Association, which we'll mainly refer to as the NAA, works a great deal with current students. We provide many opportunities for students and alumni to connect through mentorship. We have over thousands of students and alumni that are currently on our mentorship platform. Through job shadowing, hundreds of alumni open up their offices every year for a one-day job shadowing experience called Next, the Northwesternship externship program. And through traditions programming from homecoming to NU Day Wrigley, where thousands of students and alumni come together with faculty and staff to celebrate together. And I know Shreya can share more just based off her experience as a student.
Yeah, so as a student, I didn't really come into Northwestern expecting to be interacting with alumni a lot, especially not my first year. That wasn't really on my radar, but as I joined Arch Society and I was able to get more involved with all the different opportunities that Northwestern has provided for us, like Suresh mentioned, the Next program, which is an externship program. Basically, it connects you with an alumni in an industry of your interest, and you get to shadow them for a couple days, and it's really a very eye-opening experience. From that to on-campus events such as the traditions events and a lot of events that the Arch Society holds, such as industry insiders. You get a lot of help and a lot of support from the very tight-knit Northwestern community. And it really is reassuring as a student to know that even after I graduate, I'll still have a lot of, Wildcats by my side to rely on them and kind of connect with in terms of my industry, career, or even just if I want to get to know someone.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, guys. I feel like the NAA is something that you really want to know right when you step on campus exist, just because it's something that I imagine would lead you through these 4 years only to benefit you. And so while we wait for more questions to come on through, Allison, can I point to you for a second? Yesterday, we had an info session on career services and kind of internship opportunities. How do you feel like you lend yourself to that? And how do you work with that office?
So the on-campus resource that most students use for career services is called Northwestern Career Advancement, or NCA. And our office works extremely closely with NCA in all of our career programming. So 2 of our colleagues on Helen and I's career advancement team sit on committees within NCA and are in the know with everything that's happening in that world. We also collaborate on a lot of programming. As Shreya mentioned, our next program, which is our one-day job shadowing externship program, is a joint effort between NCA and our office. So it's just trying to create a relationship very early on between alumni and students. We also offer just one-off opportunities to connect with alumni. So stuff like mock interviews. That's a collaboration between NCA and the NAA, where alumni sign up to host virtual interviews with students. And it's just a great way to practice your interviewing skills and get feedback from someone in the industry that you want to go into. And NCA is a great resource. Highly recommend taking advantage of their services. But we're here for you after graduation, but we're also here for you as soon as you get on campus. And yeah, thanks, Jackie.
Suresh, if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah, I know, as Allison mentioned, there's sometimes other one-off opportunities to connect. And one way some of my students that I've worked with have had the opportunity to do additional job shadowing is through the mentorship program. So they made connections through the mentorship program, and that has lent itself into those one-day opportunities and job shadowing that have been really meaningful and helping them better understand what they kind of want to do with their lives afterwards.
Awesome, great. I know we have a question here kind of about finding, jobs and internships after college, specifically within Benin. I want to ask it more broadly. Do you guys feel that you have alum connecting with you from all industries for these next programs or these mock trials? And how do you kind of engage across every school? Allison?
Go ahead and answer that. Our mentorship platform has almost 9,000 alumni on it in all sorts of careers, ranging from medicine to people who are entrepreneurs, to people who work in coaching. If you have an interest in anything, I promise you it's on there. And if it's not, our team will work to get someone on there for you. We have so many connections just from working as staff in events and just meeting people that we are always here for you and just able to provide you with those resources. But just alumni want to help and want to stay engaged with students, and they feel like a very positive use of their time is to help people where they once were, which is as a student at Northwestern.
Awesome. Yes, go ahead, Suresh.
I'd say also through the mentorship platform, what's great about it is you can filter through a lot of different options. So if you're interested in chatting with alumni that studied the same major as you or are located in a certain city, like it's a great way to get really detailed in what you're looking for if you're looking at multiple different variables. I know Helen wants to add.
Jackie, if I heard you right, did you say somebody was looking for internships in Benin or for Benin school? Okay, I heard that right. My ears just perked up because I have been in the same shoes, and I'll just chime in here with like my personal experience. I was a music performance major for percussion from 2012 to 2016 until my senior year. I decided to go through a major career change, but I still stayed in the nonprofit arts organization sector. So there are plenty of internships available. I know that a lot of people assume that there aren't internships available for people who are in School of Music or anybody in the creative arts field, but trust me, there are plenty. And the office at specifically within Benin and our office at the NAA will help you to get connected with alumni locally and just within, honestly, around the world. So that will not be a problem. And I can say that with confidence as someone who went through it.
That's awesome. All right, thank you guys. We have another question here asking, do most theater alumni stay in the Chicago area, building off the connection they've made during their time at NU? I'm sure you all have an answer to that, but I also want to ask again, where do you see alumni even going? So let's answer this theater question and then more so where our alum are going and what they're doing. Allison, did you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. I actually know that we have like a mentor circle, which is a smaller, more intimate gathering of students and alumni. It can either be like students with one alumni or it can be a panel of alumni with some students. And it's about acting. It's about acting in smaller markets. So outside of California, New York, LA, that's where a lot of our communication school graduates go. Is sort of just where the industries are, but this entire mentor circle is about creating a career in smaller markets and what that means and what that looks like. And her name's Laura Cole. She graduated a while back, but she's had like 35 years in the industry, and she just is willing to share that experience with students, and plenty of opportunities like that exist. So I'm going to pass it over to Helen. You had something to add, right?
Yeah, just something small. I've noticed that in my experience, I've seen a lot of students or alumni who majored in theater or who are in that sector go to the big cities, Chicago, LA, New York. They're everywhere. But like Allison said, we have a lot of connections that are built virtually. So you can definitely get advice from anyone wherever you are, even if you're outside of the US or anything like that. So so the connection is really strong.
One last thing I'd like to add to that question is we have many alumni chapters or clubs around the world, and two of the ones that I want to mention connected to performance is the industry is the entertainment club. So we have a West Coast and an East Coast one, so more based in New York and LA, for alumni within those industries to be able to connect outside of just the general alumni community.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. We have another question that just came in. What support system does NU have to help students get into grad school with alum? Do you guys ever connect people who are going through grad school applications and with alum, and how that process goes? It looks like Shreya, you want to go ahead and answer that one?
Yeah, so I actually have quite amount of experience with people who have been applying to grad schools or med schools or any sort of professional degree, because in the CSD major, a lot of people generally tend to pursue an SLP or an AUD degree. And in terms of alumni helping us with that process, there's a lot of resources within the CSD department that they can use to connect you with recent Northwestern alumni who have just very recently been through the application process. And I know that they're very good at matching students up and making sure that if you have any questions, those recently graduated alumni can help you with that. Also, as a pre-med, we have a really amazing med school right at our hands. We have Feinberg, and I know that there's a lot of pre-med mentorship programs where they'll match you with a med student, and that med student will reach out to you, or you can reach out to them, and you guys can really talk about the process for applying to medical school, which everyone knows is a doozy. So I know that they definitely are very supportive in terms of helping you really just get those resources and have your questions answered from someone who can provide that firsthand experience.
Great. Thank you, Shreya. That was awesome. It sounds like so far what we've heard over and over, right, is alum are here to kind of engage with you in a variety of ways, and they're really going to support you. So once you start at Northwestern, you truly are joining that alumni network right away. And so while we wait, maybe for some more questions to come in, I kind of want to know what that first year experience might even look like with the NAA. So maybe if Shreya, you could start kind of talking about what it would look like as a first year to engage with the NNA.
Yeah, of course. So as a first year, right off the bat, you're kind of really immersed into the Northwestern community. And right in like around October, you get homecoming. And so homecoming is kind of your first major exposure to any sort of like Northwestern tradition. And there are always tons of alumni back on campus, which is like super interesting. I remember my first year, like I wasn't aware that this was happening. So I was just walking to class one day and all of a sudden there were Northwestern alumni everywhere. And I was like, what's going on? Like who invited all of them? But I then found out that it was for homecoming. And it's just such a like a heartwarming feeling to, you know, see all these people walking around you and you can see them like very excitedly like pointing to Deering Library or University Building. And it's a very nice way to just feel more immersed in that community, but in a more tangible manner. As a first year, I did attend a lot of NAA events. So one of the events that I attended was Northwestern Industry Insiders. So I was able to really just get a feel for what certain alumni have to say about their specific area of interest. And I was able to get more firsthand experience, which was very reassuring as a first year, because I knew that even if I had questions, I had people that would be able to answer them. And I knew that Northwestern had those connections to help me bolster my confidence in entering the professional world. And then finally, just to end it off, I also participated in the next program, which a lot of people don't really expect first years to get involved with because it is, you know, alumni connection seems super far out, but I found it to be a very rewarding experience. And I was able to actually shadow a cardiac anesthesiologist all the way down in Texas. So it was definitely a very wising experience for me. And I was able to get a lot out of it. And I definitely hope to continue doing so throughout the future of my Northwestern career. So definitely a lot of different opportunities out there.
One other thing that I would mention, and thank you so much, Shreya, for sharing your experience, is during Wildcat Welcome, which is orientation that happens before the fall quarter begins. We have a big tradition called March to the Arch, and that's an opportunity to welcome the newest members of the Northwestern community, senior staff speak, as well as local officials, and the NAA president usually speaks and welcomes the new students to the alumni community as well, just to know that you are part of this, that we are here for you, and we're all in this together.
That's awesome. And on that note, just maybe a quick question, but I mean, at least when I remember when I first came to Northwestern, and a lot of us are alum on this call, and we've got Shreya, who's current student. It might feel a little intimidating to even engage with alumni. So do you find that our alum are interested in engaging with students besides even these programs or through these programs? And how do you see students kind of navigating that? Yes, Suresh.
So the mentorship program specifically are alumni that have opted in wanting to connect with students and offering their expertise in helping and support. We rely a lot on alumni volunteers for all our programming, from industry insiders, as Shreya mentioned, to mock interviews, to the mentor circles. These are all alumni that are volunteering their time. Each year we have thousands of alumni that want to give back to the community in this way. And I'm sure Helen can speak more about our digital engagement, because that's a great way that students can access alumni in a very unscary way.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about my side of just what I do and what my role is. So, like I said, I am part of the career advancement team within the NAA, but I mainly focus on our digital career programs. And there are two. First one is the NAA Career Webinar Series. We invite industry experts to just present on topics that they feel like they excel in, and these can be C-level executives, career coaches, or the list could go on and on, but they come back and they offer these free webinars for your professional development. And did I mention that they're free? They're awesome. We have so many wonderful people, and we try to be as diverse when it comes to industries, because we know that Northwestern is not a university that only focuses on one specific industry or major. We want it to be as diverse as possible so that many of you can get these resources. So we have that. These are live webinars. You can register. Honestly, anybody can register to watch these. So maybe I can share a link later. So we have that. And my other program that I mainly focus on is Northwestern Intersections. It's our career podcast where we interview alumni about their career stories, how they got to where they are, any mistakes that they made, any lessons that they want to share with students, alumni network, and anybody who's listening, and how these are beneficial for you are that they're on-demand programs. So that means you can watch them whenever you want, wherever you want. And these alumni are experts in their industry. So whatever that they share, they are just so I learned so much from just hosting them. So yeah, you can learn so much from just watching a webinar. And I could talk about it on and on, but that's a little bit about how you can get involved using our digital programs.
Thanks, everyone. The podcast sounds really cool, by the way. I was clicking around on your website yesterday. And for those of you who are tuning in, definitely check it out. There's so much information that we're going to try to cover today, but so much more out there just about what the NAA does. And so if you guys have any additional questions, again, feel free to drop them in the chat. But I have another question for you all. Since we're kind of already talked through what digital engagement was and a couple programs, I do want to know just a little bit more about maybe the logistical end of some of these programs. So I know we've talked about Next a lot, like there's externship opportunities, you get paired with someone, there's mentorship, but how do our students just kind of start that process? Do they just go on your website? Do they email you? What do I do as maybe even a first year to start? Yeah, Allison, if you want to take that.
For sure. So our mentorship platform is super easy. It's just mentor.northwestern.edu. I believe that, yeah, that's right. And you just can sign up and make an account once all of your, I think it's with your student email. I'm not exactly sure, but you can also connect it to your LinkedIn. And then you can go ahead in there and poke around and find alumni who have careers that you're interested in. The same thing with like our digital programs that Helen was mentioning. Our webinars are all linked on our website, which is alumni.northwestern.edu. And everything's on there. It'll kick you over to a different site, but you can access all of them straight from our page. Next is a little bit different. Recruitment for that starts in the fall, and they would usually happen over spring break, whether folks are traveling or doing them locally, just since that's when you all as students have more time to do them. But so you have to plan a little bit on that end, but super easy to sign up for. Yeah, just I'm gonna kick it back over to Jackie if anyone else wants to chime in, or Suresh.
And you'll hear about these programs mainly through NCA, if it's career specific, or through our own Student Connects newsletter, which goes out to each undergraduate class once a month, which has information on registration dates, upcoming programs, digital and in person. And so we keep you posted. We don't bombard your email, but you'll hear from us at least once a month.
Great, thank you guys. Yeah, so it sounds like we've talked through kind of how you start engaging with us. We've mentioned some events, but I do kind of want to circle back to maybe some more exciting low-key events. What are some programming that you guys do that feel a little less networky and more about naturally meeting people? Shreya, if you want to go ahead and talk about those.
Yeah, thanks, Jackie. So one of my actually absolute favorite events that NAA has for students is called Dinner with 12. And it's basically where you can sign up and you can sign up through the platform actually that Allison was talking about, the mentor.northwestern.edu. So right next to where you can sign up for Next, you actually have an option where you can also sign up for a dinner with 12. And so what it means is basically you'll sign up and then they'll match you with an alumni who is willing to host a dinner for you and some other students that you'll also get randomly paired with. And basically you get to go to their house. They'll cook you a very nice home, like homely meal, and you get to eat it and discuss just their experience either at Northwestern or in their career with them, or you can just talk about whatever you want. Like, I went to a dinner with 12 this past quarter, and it was with a couple. They actually both went to Northwestern, and they were involved in business. Another one was a linguistics major, so I wasn't really sure what I could talk to them about, considering that I'm a pre-med who's in CSD. But when I went, the conversation was endless. The dinner was so good, and they were just so happy to be interacting with students, and us students likewise were so happy to be able to interact with them. And we were just talking about their time at Northwestern. We were talking about how they like living in Evanston. We were talking about pets, dogs, really just, it was very casual and it didn't feel networky at all. But at the end of the day, I did get to make new connections. I did get to meet two new Northwestern alumni who I can count on for if I need, any guidance, support. And it's really just an overall more of a bonding experience. And you get more of that emotional connection where you really feel a part of the Wildcat network, and you really feel that that love that you have for Northwestern in less of a professional manner. So I really, really enjoy and would strongly suggest everyone to try Dinner with 12.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Shreya. That sounds like a lot of fun. As an alum, I would get those emails and be like, this sounds so cool. And I regret never actually going. But Suresh, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, a couple of the programs that are more just relaxing and more celebratory. We have a lot of transition programs. And so we do programming for sophomores and juniors, and we do a lot of programming for seniors, especially transitioning them to alumni. But we started doing the Sophomore Welcome back a couple of years ago, and that's really grown to be a big program. And we partner with residential services, and it's about providing a space for students to come together before the first day of class. And it's casual. We have a lot of food, music, games, and prizes, and you have an opportunity just to casually talk to some departments that might be important to connect with during that time. So we have NCA, the Northwestern Career Advancement, as well as Office of Undergraduate Research, and study abroad is there as well, just because a lot of those decisions tend to be made during sophomore year, but it's a casual way just to connect with people and just to reconnect with friends after a summer away, or it might have been even longer if you were away the quarter before. And we do that, the same kind of program for juniors, but more tailored to what the junior needs are.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I did want to ask then on the other side, maybe if we could just run through a couple of more of those networking programs. I think we mentioned some mock interview preps maybe. Are there receptions ever or industry specific events? Maybe we could run through a couple of those just to reiterate both sides of the coin here. Yeah, Allison.
Sure. So we also do a lot of, like Shreya mentioned earlier, a program called Industry Insiders, where a bunch of alumni come back to campus, and it's kind of like speed dating in a weird way. You get to network with a bunch of different alumni in different fields that you might be interested in, but you can definitely tailor who you talk to. So you're not just randomly matched with anyone. If you only want to talk to people who do something with science, you can only talk to like doctors or biologists or people who work in pharmaceuticals. You can tailor that entire program to your needs. We also have a ton of like those mock interviews that I mentioned earlier, where it's usually someone in an industry that you are interested in interviewing you. So if you're a person who wants to go into consulting, it'll usually be a consultant who is performing your mock interview. We also have a lot of programming that can be tailored to you, the way like Helen mentioned with our digital programs, but we also work a lot with our clubs and communities teams on a program called Northwestern Connects, which is a giant networking, more like traditional like reception-y when you think of the word networking event that happens all over the world. I think it's something ridiculous, like 73 cities and countries participate. And it's just really showing that like, no matter where you go, there's an alum who wants to connect with you and get to know you. So it's just a really great opportunity. I'm going to pass it over to Suresh because he has some more stuff to add.
Yeah, and as Alison mentioned, the Northwestern Connects, which takes place around the world in January, we actually started doing one on campus as well for students. And so it's varied between inviting alumni to those and not, but we have a professional etiquette instructor come and just help navigate for students, like, how do I even enter into a conversation that might already be going on? What kind of questions do I ask? And it just makes it a much easier just to start that process of networking is when you have it and you're able to have an opportunity to practice with each other.
Great, thank you. So thanks guys. On that note, we have another question that came through, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but maybe if we could just expand on it. They're asking, could anyone speak to how easy or difficult it is to independently reach out to Northwestern alumni if you see the career they're interested in? And I think we talked about this on a website, but Allison, if you just want to expand on it, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So just like speaking from experience, I was a journalism major in undergrad, and we go on journalism residency. So it's an internship where you go for a quarter and you work at a company instead of taking classes. And in that process, I did a lot of like individual reaching out to alumni of just people who've been at the sites I was interested before or worked at the spaces that I was thinking about applying for JR at, and they were all very receptive. I just like cold called them, or not like cold called them, I sent them emails, and they were very responsive, just because it's that idea of like, they did the same thing when they went on their residency, and it's sort of that like unspoken, you pass on what has been passed to you, but in a more sort of structured way. We also have the alumni LinkedIn group. It's just called Northwestern University Alumni. Anyone can join it, even if you're a student. Current students are in it as well. And it's just a space where a lot of alumni post articles or things that they're working on or job openings at their companies that they want to share with the wider alumni community. So that's sort of a less formal way to connect with alumni. But again, the mentorship platform is a really great way to get involved and meet some people. And then Shreya is going to add some stuff too.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. So I can definitely speak to how kind of pretty easy it is to reach out to alumni. So earlier this year, I was organizing a conference for one of my clubs, and we were really interested in having our panelists for the conference be Northwestern alumni. We wanted it to be kind of very, meaningful to the community, so we wanted to keep it to alumni. And we were all a little confused as to how we can find alumni that would be interested in this, and how we go about contacting them. And then we found out, we learned about the Northwestern Mentorship platform, and there's actually an alumni directory available to all students to be able to use. You just have to sign in with your Northwestern provided net ID, and you have all of this information, and very specific. It's like catered to what industry you're looking for, or like what how far away they are, and it's really easy to be able to find alumni that would be interested in the same things that you are, who would be willing to help. And it's not daunting at all to contact them, and we actually got a lot of success using that platform. So definitely, without the support that the mentorship platform provided for us in that moment, it wouldn't have been possible. So definitely take advantage of these resources that Northwestern is providing.
For sure. Thank you, Shreya and Allison. Just want to say we're a little bit over halfway here. So if you have some more questions, there's still time to go ahead and add those in the chat. But I wanted to kind of transition and ask a little bit of a different question, and maybe hear from Suresh. What kind of programming specifically do you have, or how do you engage with students who are coming from maybe a different kind of background and a different perspective? So our low income students, our first generation students, is there any kind of programming available for them specifically through NAA?
Thanks for that question, Jackie. We actually do a lot of programming with our colleagues in NCA, the Career Advancement Team, as well as Student Enrichment Services, which provides support for first generation and/or lower income students and undocumented students. And so we work together a lot on a series of programs called the Walk Through Room series. And so it's a lot of it is connected to networking with alumni, getting career skills, and just general knowledge and being able to hit the ground running and getting connected with career fairs. And so we do a lot of specific programming, just supporting this population that might not come in with the same networking experience that other populations have come in with or resources. So we do a lot of affinity programming for this community.
Great, thank you. So then I kind of wanted to then pivot back to Helen, because I know we've got to talk about her digital programming, but maybe putting on the spot here, but is there a recent podcast that you did that you were excited about, or could you give us a little synopsis of what you even talk about in your podcast? Just so students who are looking for it might be more excited to go listen to them.
Yeah, of course, I would love to talk about it. So, like I said, our podcast is called Northwestern Intersections, and basically we invite alumni to just for me to share, or for them to share their story, their Northwestern experience, and how their life looked like right after graduation. We try to make it as diverse as possible, whether that means class years, industries, their backgrounds, or etc. So I like to ask them, just like I said, their Northwestern experience, how they found their career that they're working on right now. My favorites are the ones that are more of a zigzag pattern rather than a linear career pattern, because that's also something that I went through, where I did not expect to be where I am right now 8 years ago. And then yeah, I'm trying to think of some of my favorite episodes. Most recently, we interviewed Dr. Coco Cabral. She went to Feinberg and she did a webinar for us. But once the quarantine happened and we were told to stay indoors, I was thinking about how the NAA can provide anyone who's listening to our podcast some kind of, breathing exercises or a way to kind of, stay calm and focused. So she did a quick breathing exercises over the podcast platform. One specifically for our frontline healthcare professionals, one for parents with teenagers or children at home, and another one just for the general public. So that was, for me, that was really good to see that our alumni are out there wanting to help as much as possible. And then another one is about, she's actually a SSB professor here. She, Selini Yarma, she is an amazing woman. Please listen to that episode. Her episode is about education equity for all. She went to Ghana. She just so that she can help young girls with their education, especially those who couldn't afford to have any kind of education. And now they're off to Harvard, Yale, and working at Deloitte. So she's done incredible work. She's had many speaking engagements. But yeah, there's so many alumni out there who are doing amazing work. You have no idea, which is why we brought this podcast program to life, so that you can hear what other people are doing. And these people are always open to connecting with you too. So you can, obviously, I'm sure they would be happy to hear that you're a Northwestern student, that you found them on LinkedIn, you heard them on the podcast or saw their webinar. They would be happy to hear from you and see how y'all can connect. But yeah, that's a little bit about the podcast. And yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, Helen. I think it's always really cool to hear from different alumni, as from Northwestern alumni, what they're doing, what they're up to, and even how they're giving back. So these alum are giving back to you, whether it sounds like it or not, by sharing their stories. So on the other end of things, we're talking to a bunch of admitted students right now, students who are just about to start their college journey. And we've highlighted a lot of different ways they can start to get involved. But what's it going to look like when they graduate specifically? Can we maybe highlight some more of the programming they'll see, they will be able to see these podcasts, but I know I get emails. So maybe we could talk about that. Someone wants to kick us off there. Suresh?
Yeah, I'd love to start with just that last year experience as well, their senior year experience. We do a lot of programming, getting them ready for that next chapter. So we start with a senior brunch in the fall, which is a big tradition. And then in the spring quarter, especially, we have a lot of programs tailored towards that transitional piece. So renting essentials. So many of our alumni, as we talked about before, stay in Chicago, but they also go East Coast, West Coast, and all over the world. So we do renting essentials workshops. So we have alumni and real estate agents come and talk about how do I find an apartment in a city I've never lived in before that is brand new to me, to help ease that transition and answer a lot of those questions. Especially because a lot of our alumni, recent grads especially, go into some cities that can be really hard to find housing. Then we also do financial foundation. So just thinking about like, how do I budget post-grad? What's a 401k? Like, how do I save? Just helping navigate what are benefits and everything like that. So answering those questions through experts. Then we do a lot of send-off programming connected to traditions and celebratory occasions. So one big tradition is last lecture where seniors vote on a faculty member to kind of give a farewell talk. And that 700 students always attend each year. And then the summer after graduation, we start with our recent alumni newsletters, which I know Allison works a great deal on. So keeping people connected digitally that way about our upcoming programs. And each edition features a member of that class year as well. And in the fall, after graduation, we have a keystone program called New Chapter, New Neighbors, which happens in over 20 cities around the world, where we have hosted welcome receptions for the newest members of the alumni community, often hosted by alumni in those cities. And we also help organize some of the larger ones that take place. And then there's a lot of opportunity to come back for reunions in the future and stay engaged with the alumni clubs within the cities that they're in. If there's not a club, there's oftentimes going to be a Northwestern ambassador who's an alum that's helping it keep engaged that way. So those are a few different ways. I'll let recent alumni answer as well.
I can share a little bit about my experience, especially being so recently graduated. But I just feel like every alum that I've ever encountered just wishes you well. My boyfriend and I were in Boston for a wedding in the fall, and he had a Northwestern hat on because he's also a Northwestern folk. But anyway, the random person stopped us on the street while we were walking around Boston with our backpacks, and like, go Cats. And they wanted to know about what we were doing there and like what we studied, and just like spent like 10 minutes with us talking on the sidewalk in Boston. So I just think that embodies our alumni community, because they just really feel a connection to you even before you step foot on campus, and they're just really ready to give you any advice if you seek it. Sometimes they'll give you unsolicited advice, but that's okay too. We appreciate it. We love it. And they just really, really want to give you a great experience because they had such a great experience on campus. And they're also super helpful when you're looking for jobs. I know I relied heavily on my alumni network and connections that I made at Northwestern post-grad. I graduated without having an offer lined up, but actually met Suresh and everyone on my team at some of our senior programming. And just even staff is super helpful in the transition from student to alumni. So Northwestern's here for you in every capacity that you can imagine.
Yeah, I totally agree with Allison. And that story that she just told is super common. I think we might even close later in a couple minutes talking about how we've personally all connected with alum. So start thinking of those stories now, guys. But on another note, we just got a question coming in that's asking kind of what is the difference between the NAA and the NCA? And we've talked a lot about how they overlap in career development. And so I'm happy to just kind of give a brief overview, but I would love if you guys wanted to chime in with maybe how you perceive it's different. Just so you know, the NCA is the Northwestern Career Advancement for everyone listening right now. And so Northwestern Career Advancement is our center on campus to help you fulfill those postgraduate plans you're interested in. Meanwhile, the Northwestern Alumni Association, or NAA, is here to connect you with alumni, specifically from Northwestern. So the key difference here is that one is prepping you for what you might end up doing full-time, whether it's internship prep, interview prep, resumes, looking over, writing workshops, and NAA is really helping you make that networking piece work, but also just connecting you with like-minded folks for the rest of your life. And so it sounds like I got it pretty covered in terms of what that looks like, but that does lend itself to the next question I did want to ask, not to emphasize the confusion here, but I did want to know how you guys help undergrads position themselves for those postgraduate plans. Is there a way to market your experience specifically to alums that tends to work better, or do you find that alum really understand the Northwestern experience better because they've been here? Allison, if you want to take that.
Yeah, for sure. I can share a little bit about my experience. So when you're in school, you don't necessarily always have a job or you have internship experiences, but your day-to-day is heavily like your student activities, like those fun extracurriculars that you pour your heart and soul and entire being into when you're a student. I feel like alum really understand what that means in a different way. So understanding, I was a resident assistant during my time in undergrad. Like I feel like other alumni understand what that entails specific to Northwestern, or understand why like the Daily is such a commitment, our newspaper, like working at the Daily is such a commitment. And I just feel like they have an understanding of what that all means and often can help you learn to articulate it to other people who aren't alumni. And they can show you how those things that you consider to be such an important part of your undergrad experience, that you necessarily like, oh, like I worked at the Daily a couple nights a week as a graphics editor. Like that doesn't mean anything to an employer, but alumni understand what that means on campus and can help you transition that into language that is helpful in an interview, being like, no, I was pretty great at what I did. And it was a major time commitment and I completely changed X, Y, or Z about this organization. So I think alumni are here to help you build your confidence in what you accomplish on campus and transition that into other places as well. But I think NCA does a great job of that as well, with one-to-one coaching from all of their staff, and just all of the resources that NCA can provide you, like resume reviews, trying to figure out what the next steps are there as well.
Yeah, so I personally also have used NCA's resources. So they're definitely very helpful in terms of building a resume, even from writing cover letters to just basic interview etiquette or email etiquette. They definitely are willing to spend the time with you to go over kind of the nitty-gritty details of your portfolio, and they're really just there to make you better. So I definitely am very grateful for the NCA support, and I know that a lot of my peers feel the same way. But also, Allison, I wanted to kind of expand upon how you were saying that Northwestern alumni just kind of get it a little bit more, and I know that you brought really great points in terms of how they really understand what you're doing, and they understand the technicalities of what it means to be an editor at the Daily. But also, something that I personally felt was when I was interacting with Northwestern alum, it's just like that emotional connection that you feel. And, you know, you can say like, oh, when I was walking by the Lakeville, like, and they understand just how beautiful the Lakeville is at Northwestern and how much it just means to all the students that they're on Northwestern's campus. And so it's that like extra X factor almost that you feel with the Northwestern alumni and that they can see in you. And of course, that's special to every student and the alumni of their organization. But with Northwestern, I just feel like, you know, considering the character of Evanston and the character of Northwestern, it's a very, very nice feeling to have. And it's very reassuring to know that regardless of whatever industry you enter, there's a very high probability that you will be experiencing that and you will be able to make that connection within your Wildcat community outside of campus. So I just think that's really nice.
Yeah, Thank you, Shreya and Allison. I think what you guys have just done here is really highlight the value of our alumni network. As you all might still be making your college decisions as you're watching this, it's just something to remember that who you're connected with in terms of who else has attended Northwestern, who is attending Northwestern, that's important. That's your community. And that's what you're going to be a part of as once you make that decision to join Northwestern. And I'm biased, so I think it's great. But I think our stories here have hopefully added to that feeling that this is a great community to join. We've got about 10 minutes here left. So if you have any final questions, feel free to drop those on the chat. I want to know if you guys have found that any of the programming you put on is more, any of them super popular, you feel like? Maybe we can highlight a couple of those. Suresh, if you want to take that.
Yeah, in terms of sheer numbers, the largest programs we do is NU Day at Wrigley, which last year had over 3,000 students, faculty, staff, and alumni to come together to make it the largest collegiate night in Wrigley history. For those of you that aren't familiar, Wrigley is where the Cubs baseball team plays. Then for homecoming, as Shreya has mentioned, that's another opportunity where there's a week long of programs leading into reunion, where also thousands of alumni come back. But in terms of the ones that provide the greatest opportunity for dialogue, I'd say what Shreya mentioned again about Dinner with 12 is an amazing, meaningful opportunity. Industry Insiders is essentially speed networking, which is a really popular program we've received a lot of great feedback on. And we've also started doing a lot of affinity group programming. So I mentioned the first gen and or lower income student programs. We also do a reception and panel for international students and alumni, and that's become very popular each year. We've done programming connecting students and alumni of color. We do programming with students and alumni within the LGBTQIA community. So we're doing a lot more of this focused opportunity for mentorship and connection.
Awesome. Yeah. That's great. Thank you, Suresh, for highlighting all those opportunities. I guess I also really quickly, this feels a little off topic, but not really. I wanted to talk a little bit more about homecoming because I realized as we talk about it, when I was 17, I didn't really understand the nature of homecoming on a college campus versus my high school. At high school, it was just a dance, really, and there was a football game. But in college, there's a lot more that goes on to it. And so it's a week-long affair, right? And so how do you guys see alumni specifically engaging with homecoming, and how does that reflect through the week? Suresh, if you want to take that first.
Yeah, the biggest overlap that we have during homecoming has traditionally been the Wildcat warm-up and pep rally. So about 1,000 students and alumni come together and get to listen to the marching band, the cheerleaders. We have an opportunity to crown the homecoming Wildcats. So we've had this for tradition. It switched over to homecoming Wildcats a couple of years ago, and students get to vote on their peers of the graduating class that was selected the previous year. For just being folks that bleed purple or like really exhibit the best of Northwestern community. And so that's the opportunity where a lot of students and alumni come together. A lot of alumni have opportunities to eat in the dining halls with students. So that's another opportunity for like more casual connection. And then the game the next day, it's usually during the football game that a lot of students and alumni have an opportunity to come together as well.
Especially during homecoming and like the start of reunion weekend. So like that Thursday, Friday of homecoming, alumni will just walk up to you on campus. Like they can tell if you're a student and they're just going to walk up to you and be like, hey, I'm an alum. Can you like tell me about what you're doing? And it's so great. And it's nice to take like 10 minutes out of your schedule when you're running off to Norris to go to study in Norbucks or whatever, just to like talk with someone who was in your shoes 50 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 5 years ago. And just, they really want to know what's changed. And it's just, there's no filter and they just love approaching people. That was my experience with homecoming as a student, was there would always just be countless alum walking up to me being like, you look friendly, can we talk? So they're very forward and it's lovely. And it's one of the best experiences on campus.
One more thing I'd like to add is the strong connection between student organizations and the alumni that had previously been in those student organizations. So Allison mentioned like a lot of Northwestern students participate in different groups and spend a lot of time building that community. That community can last post the student experience. And so there's a lot of organizations that have strong ties with their alumni that are still invested in their student organizations and making sure that they're still thriving and receiving mentorship and support. So that's one more thing I would add about that alumni connection connected to the more extracurricular side.
Yeah, and actually, I agree with everything that you've said, Suresh and Allison. And something from a student's perspective, just to add, is it's really nice to be able to walk down Sheridan and look to your right, and you see one of your friends performing in front of Deering on the Deering lawn. And you know, you take a couple minutes, like Allison said, you take a couple minutes out of your schedule, you stand there, you watch them, but then you look to your right and left, and you're surrounded by alumni who are just as entranced with the performance as you are. And so it's just a really nice experience to be knowing that you're standing alongside people who were doing the same thing as you know, how many ever years back, and to kind of watch like that cyclic nature of like how everything, what goes around comes back around. And so it was really nice to be able to experience that moment of community, not just in some student organization performances, but also in like a lot of the events that the NAA hosts, kind of like the food truck festival and Purple Palooza. You get a lot of different opportunities to just hang out with your friends and enjoy that, you know, all that Northwestern has to offer. Also, I should add, it's super fun, but I think the highlight for me had to be the petting zoo. I'm sorry, I have to say it. It was just really, I have never felt more happier in my life before that week, but I'll leave it with that. Homecoming is great.
That's awesome. Thank you everyone for pitching in about homecoming. I love the petting zoo. All right, so as we're wrapping up here, I just kind of wanted to end on a note of just kind of speaking to the alumni community in general. I want to say from my personal experience, all throughout undergrad, I had those homecoming experiences where people came up and said hello to me, wanted to know what I was studying, whether it's through student org, or just while I was randomly out. But I also want to say that I was able to have experiences that connected me specifically to alumni. When I got to do a program that took me to London for a week through our School of Communication, they set up a whole night for us to eat dinner with alumni at a really exclusive club. It was like this, you had to pay to get in. It's kind of like one of those workspaces, the WeWorks, but it was for communication people only. And it was an experience where I found all the alum wanted to just talk to me and get to know what I was interested in and wanted to help me. It wasn't intimidating at all. They were really interested in investing in me because they said, someone helped me. So now I want to help the next generation. And that has been something even throughout my career I've seen. I work in admissions, right? But I've gone to high schools where a teacher will wait for me to finish my presentation and say, hey, I went to Northwestern, I just wanted to talk to you. So our alum are always super excited and engaged. And so I don't know if maybe Allison, Helen, or Shreya, you have like one more note you want to add about being a recent alum and talking to alum. Or if we feel like we've covered everything. All right, go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, I just want to say that so I personally went through a lot of career transitions after graduation, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty scary for me, but I think just having that connection, that Northwestern connection, has been a huge help in my life. And I also want to affirm those who are watching. You know, you're just about to start school in a couple of months, and you might be thinking, why are these people talking about graduation? Why are they talking about jobs? It probably might sound intimidating to you, and I want to affirm that, but that's not why we're here. We're here so that we can tell you all about the programs that we have, just so that you feel supported, that we are working really hard, so that all of you can feel like you can advance in your careers, or you can have an amazing time at school from freshman year to senior year, just by having petting zoos, which was amazing. Oh my God, I almost cried. but yeah, that's what we're here for. Like, we're here to support you. We're here to just help you throughout your college journey. So that's something I would really, really want to reiterate. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think Helen ended it best for us there. We are here to support you, and that was the whole point of this. So I just want to say thank you to my lovely co-hosts here today. And so drop them a thank you in the chat. In the meantime, just to close it out, I want to remind you that you can subscribe to learn more about our sessions, what we're doing. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to get that notification. And thank you for tuning in to our Live from Northwestern. It's Life After Northwestern. If you haven't already, be sure to check out our previous programming. It's all uploaded. This will be uploaded after we're done. It'll have every other guest in Live from Northwestern we've had in the past. So you can catch up if you haven't had a chance to watch. And remember that tomorrow, your voted on experience, Live from Northwestern, will be the first year experience. So that's what won. That was the mystery session. So be sure to tune in for that at the same time. And then on Friday, we do have our cat chats from 4 to 7 p.m. Central Time. Those are on Instagram, and those are live with current students about different topics. So thanks again for tuning in. Stay healthy, enjoy your evening or morning or afternoon. And thank you guys so much.